Welcome to Cheetah Secrets. Let's dive into today's story. Amy and I have been married for 6 years, a marriage that didn't need fireworks, just a steady rhythm. Mornings began with coffee, small silent routines decided who would grab groceries, and quiet Sunday nights were spent with old movies. There was no fiery passion, but there was stability, or so I thought, until March. That's when things began to shift. Not drastically, just subtle signs. Her phone was almost always in her hand. She started mentioning long meetings more often, weekends filled with project deadlines I'd never heard about before. And her smile, it had grown mechanical, like she was performing for someone else. I didn't confront her immediately. I observed, kept track. Then one Tuesday, I decided to leave the office early. No warning, no text. I stopped by a deli, picked up her favorite wine, and grabbed dinner, lemon garlic salmon with roasted potatoes, the kind of meal we hadn't shared in weeks without the TV flickering in the background. I arrived home just after 5:30. Her car was in the driveway. Inside, the house was eerily quiet. No music, no television, only a heavy silence. Amy stood in the kitchen, facing the sink, phone in hand, typing. She jumped slightly when she noticed me. "You're home early," she said, spinning around. "Wanted to surprise you," I replied. "Thought we could eat just us tonight." Her smile appeared, but it never reached her eyes. We sat down around 6 o'clock. I poured the wine. She barely touched hers. I asked about her day, her week, her boss. Answers were clipped. Twice she glanced at her phone, and once she excused herself to the bathroom, phone in hand. By the time dessert arrived, I knew I wasn't imagining it. Something was very wrong, but I stayed silent. I wanted her to feel comfortable enough to make the first mistake, to reveal the truth so I could act. After dinner, she offered to clean up, a chore she usually avoided. I let her. I stayed at the table, sipping wine, watching her move around the kitchen like someone who couldn't sit still. Her phone sat screen up beside the sink. A message popped up. I caught just a preview, still thinking about last night. "You were unreal." Amy froze for a split second, swiped the screen down, pretending nothing happened. She didn't realize I had seen it. I kept my face neutral, finished my wine, said nothing. But at that moment, everything changed. I wasn't her husband anymore. I was an observer watching a play fall apart. She wiped her hands on a towel and tried to act casual. "All set. Want to put something on." I shrugged. "Sure." We settled on the couch with some light, forgettable shows she liked. She laughed at the right moments, leaned in briefly, but it felt like watching a stranger pretend to be my wife. I didn't reach for her. Later, while she brushed her teeth, I picked up her phone from the couch. Locked? Of course. She had changed the passcode last month, citing new work security protocols. I stared at the black screen for a moment, then set it down just as I found it. I wasn't snooping. Not yet. I wasn't begging either. I went to bed before she left the bathroom. Lying there with my eyes open, breathing slow, I knew something had crossed a line. I just needed her to admit it. A few minutes later, she entered the bedroom, drying her hands on a towel. She paused at the door. "Can we talk?" I didn't flinch. "Sure." Leaning on the door frame, arms folded, she said, "I slept with my coworker last night." No build-up, no apology. She delivered it like a weather update. I let the words hang for a moment. "Congratulations," I said calmly. Her eyes widened. "That's it? That's all you're going to say?" I sipped my coffee. "Seems like you already said everything." Her posture shifted. "Shawn, I'm trying to be honest. You deserve that much." I nodded once. Honesty, that was the word. I let silence linger, letting her expect anger, tears, questions. But I just kept drinking. "His name's Daniel," she added. "It just happened." I stayed quiet, let her sit in it. Her voice softened. "I didn't plan it, Shawn. You've been distant. I felt like we weren't connecting." I almost laughed. "So, you connected with Daniel instead." "I'm not proud of it," she said quickly. But the words rang hollow. Her attempt to claim the moral high ground was pathetic. Honesty could never erase betrayal. She offered a solution. Maybe we could talk to someone, work it through. I stood, carrying my empty cup to the sink. She turned. I didn't look at her. You wanted honesty, I said. Good. You have it. Now it was time for her to understand the consequences. I stood, walked out the door, and drove without a destination. I just needed the air, the silence. A few miles out, I ended up at a quiet park, the kind with empty benches and elderly couples strolling tiny dogs. I sat, staring at nothing, and pulled out my phone. Forgiveness wasn't on my mind. Retribution, clarity, consequences, that was what I was thinking. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I checked into a modest hotel across town. Nothing luxurious, just a room with a lock, quiet, and no memories attached. The next morning, I made a call. Karen Mitchell, a friend from college, now a lawyer who specialized in corporate investigations and private divorces. We had stayed in touch over the years. She answered on the second ring. Shawn, what's going on? This is about Amy, I said. We met that afternoon in her office. I kept the explanation clinical, stripped of emotion. Karen listened like a prosecutor, alert, precise, hands still. When I mentioned Daniel, Amy's coworker, her expression changed subtly. Which firm does he work for? She asked. Same as Amy, I replied. They are on the same design team. Karen nodded slowly. Does the company have a policy on workplace relationships? I already knew the answer. Strict prohibition between direct collaborators, clearly stated in the code of conduct. Good, she said, jotting notes. So this isn't just about divorce. How do we handle this cleanly? I asked. Document everything, she said. Dates, messages, receipts, anything that establishes a timeline. I left her office and returned to the hotel. I logged into the old shared cloud account Amy and I had set up years ago. She must have forgotten it still synced. Within minutes, I had what I needed. Screenshots, saved images, message previews. Daniel's name appeared multiple times. Karen had said, the more organized, the faster I can act. I sat at the desk, opened a blank folder, and began compiling the evidence. The message from the night she slipped, the photo showing Daniel's name on her screen, the dates that contradicted her excuses. Then I dug into Daniel's life. 5 minutes later, I found his fiancée, Emily Carter, a real estate agent, engaged for 3 months, smiling innocently as if she trusted completely. I didn't editorialize. I attached the screenshots and wrote, "You deserve to know who you're marrying." Sent it at 8 a.m. and shut the laptop. By morning, I had 2 replies. Karen, got it. I'll start the paperwork. Emily, thank you. I had no idea. Amy had demanded honesty. She was about to receive it. 3 days later, I texted Amy. I wanted one last genuine conversation. No yelling, no dramatics. She jumped at the opportunity, agreeing almost too quickly. I told her I'd come over with dinner, something simple. She replied with a smile emoji, as if that made things lighter. I brought her favorite Thai takeout. She was already dressed, hair curled, soft sweater, the perfume she used to wear when we were still trying. You look good, I said flatly. She smiled a little too brightly. Thanks. I wasn't sure if this would be awkward. Oh, it's awkward, I said, placing the food down. But I'm here. We ate on the couch. She asked about work, made small talk as though it were a tentative first date. I let her take the lead, observing quietly. When we finished, she leaned forward, voice soft. I meant what I said the other day. I was trying to be honest. I remember, I said. She hesitated. I don't know if Daniel means anything. I needed something different. You and I are done, I interrupted. She blinked. You don't even want to talk about it. I already did, I said. Months ago, in my head, while you stayed late at work, while you stopped kissing me back. I've had all the conversations already. Amy looked like she might cry, or fight, or both. I stayed calm. I spoke with your HR office this morning. Summarized the relationship between you and Daniel. Same team, same client. I didn't exaggerate. And I sent your text to someone else as well, Emily Carter, Daniel's fiancée. She covered her mouth. "Shawn, you wanted honesty," she whispered. "You're giving it in consequences." She stared at me like I was unrecognizable. That made two of us. 2 days later, Amy's lawyer contacted Karen. Mediation. Not surprising. Amy's side wanted damage control, not confrontation. I agreed, not to argue, but to finalize everything on paper. We met in a neutral office downtown. Beige walls, coffee machine humming, everything sterile and forgettable. The perfect setting. Amy entered like she was prepared to plead her case. Black blazer, flawless hair, chin high, but the cracks were there. Her control was only a facade. Her lawyer, a man named Mitchell, sat beside her. Karen sat next to me, composed and sharp. The mediator, an older woman named Donna, opened the session with a gentle smile and a notebook. "Let's begin. This isn't about blame." It was about closure, not vengeance. Amy cleared her throat. "Shawn's trying to ruin my career," she said. "He sent private messages to my workplace and to someone completely unrelated to our marriage." Donna, the mediator, turned to me. "Is that true?" "Yes," I replied firmly, "and I stand by it." Amy's lawyer leaned in. "Do you realize this could have legal consequences if it's interpreted as malicious?" Before I could respond, Karen spoke. "It's not malicious. My client reported a clear breach of corporate policy. Sharing facts isn't malicious, especially when it exposes ongoing deception, both personally and professionally." Donna nodded, gesturing for focus. "Amy, were you involved with a coworker?" Amy hesitated. "Yes." Donna raised a hand. "Then Shawn didn't expose you. He revealed the truth." A tightness crossed Amy's face. "I didn't think he'd do something like that." I met her gaze evenly. "No, you assumed I'd stay silent, swallow it all, protect you as I always did." She turned away, jaw clenched. Donna sighed. "Let's move on to the agreement. We'll finalize the division today." Amy didn't resist. Halfway through signing the documents, her posture slumped. When she finished, her signature wavered. Mine didn't. The mediator collected the papers, clipped them neatly, and said simply, "It's over." Amy didn't speak. She walked out, and I didn't watch her leave. The following week, I moved into a one-bedroom apartment above a quiet coffee shop. Modest, peaceful, the kind of silence without lurking tension. No late-night buzzing phone. No forced laughter at dinner. No pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. Amy reached out a few times. First with guilt. "I know I hurt you. I wasn't thinking. I made a mistake." Then nostalgia. "Remember when we used to sit on the balcony with wine and talk about nothing?" Then frustration. "You didn't have to burn everything down." I ignored every message. When she called once, I let it ring, watched the screen light up, then fade away. A few days later, Karen called. HI concluded its review. Daniel was terminated. Amy had been reassigned and flagged. I didn't push for more. I didn't care about her coworkers' opinions or what remained of Daniel's engagement. I had what I needed. Truth revealed, accountability established, and silence. The kind of silence that felt whole, not hollow. Months later, the divorce was finalized. No drama, no court theatrics, just paperwork. 2 weeks afterward, a small envelope arrived. No return address. Inside, a note in familiar handwriting. "I'm leaving the city. I thought disappearing would hurt less, but I know this is my fault. I'm sorry. I hope you find someone worthy of the way you loved me." I folded the letter and placed it in the back of a drawer I rarely opened, not to remember her, but to remember what peace costs and what I gained by refusing to excuse it. 3 months on, I found myself outside our old house. Sold, repainted, a new family inside. I parked across the street, observing for a moment. Open windows, a swing set, life moving on in the space that once echoed with ours. And I felt nothing, no bitterness, no longing, just clarity and distance. That night, I sat on my new balcony with a drink. The quiet was earned. No tension, no false smiles, just calm. Amy used to throw honesty around as a shield, as though it justified everything. But honesty isn't protection. It's exposure. And once it's out, you can't control it. She gave me her truth, late, fractured, selfish. I gave mine back, calm, deliberate, unflinching. Not to punish, just to end it. People sometimes ask if I regret not trying harder. I don't. The moment she said, "I slept with my coworker last night," the foundation was gone. When I said, "Congratulations," it wasn't sarcasm, it was clarity. I didn't seek revenge or satisfaction. I sought to reclaim myself. I left with dignity, with peace, and one final lesson. When someone asks for honesty, they must be ready for the kind that doesn't come wrapped in comfort. Because when it lands like a closing door. And that sound, that's not cruelty. That's freedom. Thank you for listening.